Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. We often think about things like oil or minerals when we hear the word resources.
Right.
But today we're flipping the script and exploring the idea that people are a nation's most valuable resource.
I like that, flipping the script.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating perspective.
So we're going to look at global population patterns, the factors that influence them, and what those patterns reveal about a country.
Sounds intriguing. Often we overlook the human element when discussing resources, but ultimately, those oil and minerals you mention are only as valuable as the humans who extract and utilize them.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit.
Sure.
What makes human ingenuity so crucial in turning, let's say, a lump of coal
Okay.
into something that powers our homes?
Well, think about it. Coal sitting in the ground is just, well, coal.
Right.
It's inert, right? It only becomes valuable when humans apply knowledge, skills, and technology to extract it, process it, and ultimately turn it into electricity that powers our lives.
It's like taking something with potential and transforming it into something that's actually useful.
Precisely. And this principle applies to all resources.
Oh, interesting.
Their value is unlocked by human effort and innovation.
That makes me think about a program I came across while prepping for our deep dive today, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, or PKVY.
Ah, yes, the PKVY, a great example.
Yeah.
It's an Indian initiative that focuses on developing people's skills, recognizing that skilled individuals are essential for a nation's growth.
So they're basically investing in people as a resource.
Exactly. By equipping individuals with relevant skills,
Yeah.
they're empowered to contribute more effectively to the economy,
I see.
leading to greater productivity and prosperity.
So it's a win-win
Absolutely.
for both the individual and the nation.
It's a ripple effect.
Okay, so we're seeing how people are the engine of progress.
Yeah.
But here's a question that I find really puzzling.
Okay.
Why is the global population spread so unevenly? Some areas are incredibly dense, while others are sparsely populated.
That's a question geographers and sociologists have been grappling with for ages, and it's a multi-layered answer.
Okay, so what are some of the layers?
Well, let's start with the most fundamental one, geography.
Okay, so how does the physical landscape itself affect where people choose to live?
Think about terrain.
Okay.
Vast, fertile plains, like the Indo-Gangetic Plain in India, naturally attract larger populations because they're ideal for agriculture, transportation, and building cities.
That makes sense. Those are all things that support a large population.
Exactly.
So what about areas that aren't so flat?
Well, mountainous regions,
Correct.
while often stunningly beautiful,
They
present challenges for settlement and development.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Imagine trying to build roads or establish large-scale agriculture on a steep mountainside.
Right, it would be way more difficult.
It's certainly not impossible, but it requires a lot more effort and resources.
Okay, so it's not just about mountains and plains, right? What about other geographical factors?
Absolutely. Climate plays a crucial role as well.
How so?
Regions with extreme temperatures, like
Yeah.
scorching deserts or frigid polar regions, are naturally less hospitable to human life.
So it's like finding that sweet spot
Exactly.
where the geography is most suitable for humans to thrive.
You've got it. But it's not just about the environment.
Right, because we were talking about flipping the script and thinking about people.
Exactly.
So what about the human side of things?
Socioeconomic factors are equally important.
In what?
Areas with good access to education, healthcare,
Yeah.
and employment opportunities
Right.
naturally attract more people.
Makes sense. People want to live where they can build a good life.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about quality of life and opportunities for themselves and their families.
I can see how that creates a sort of push and pull dynamic.
Exactly. And we can't forget the role of culture and history.
Oh, right. Like how some places have a special significance.
Places of religious significance,
Yeah.
like Varanasi on the banks of the Ganges,
I've heard of that.
attract large populations due to their spiritual importance.
So it's like a magnet for people.
Absolutely. Similarly, cities with rich historical legacies often hold a special allure,
Right.
contributing to their population growth.
It's fascinating to see how all these factors intertwine.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about where people live, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about population change.
Okay.
I mean, the world's population has grown exponentially over time, right? What's driving that growth?
That's a great question. And to really understand it,
Yeah.
we need to break down the components of population change.
Okay, let's do it.
The first is natural growth, which is simply the difference between births and deaths.
So more births than deaths equals population growth.
Exactly. Historically, birth rates were high, but so were death rates due to diseases, famine, and limited medical care.
So it's like a balancing act,
Yeah.
a lot of new life coming in, but also a lot of lives lost.
Precisely. But things began to shift around the 1800s with advancements in sanitation, healthcare, and food production.
So fewer people dying,
Exactly, death rates started to decline while birth rates remained relatively high.
and that imbalance tipped the scales towards rapid population growth.
You got it. Now, the second major factor is migration,
Right, the movement of people.
the movement of people from one place to another.
And this can happen both within a country and between countries, right?
Absolutely. We often think of international migration,
Okay.
where people move across borders.
Right, like for better opportunities or to escape conflict.
Precisely. Countries like the USA and Canada have historically seen significant population growth fueled by immigration.
So their populations have been shaped by people coming from other parts of the world.
Exactly. But we also have internal migration, where
Okay.
people move within the boundaries of their own country.
Got it. So migration adds another layer of complexity to the population puzzle,
It does.
with people moving in and out of countries and regions
Yeah.
driven by a whole range of motivations.
Precisely. And the impact of migration on population change can be significant.
That makes sense.
It can lead to changes in a country's demographic makeup,
Oh,
influencing its age structure, cultural diversity, and economic landscape.
this is giving me a much deeper appreciation for the complexity of population dynamics.
It is complex.
It's not just about numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding the needs,
Yeah.
aspirations, and potential of different age groups.
And how those interact.
Okay, but how can we make sense of all this data? How do we truly understand the makeup of a population?
That's where a fascinating tool called a population pyramid comes in.
A pyramid. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this.
It's basically a graph shaped like a pyramid.
Okay.
The base represents the youngest age groups in a population, and it gradually narrows towards the top,
I see.
which represents the oldest age groups.
So just by looking at the shape, we can get a sense of whether a country has a predominantly young or old population.
Precisely. A wide base suggests a high proportion of young people, which typically indicates high birth rates.
So a youthful and growing population.
Exactly. On the other hand, a pyramid with a narrower base and a wider top indicates a larger proportion of older people.
Which means lower birth rates and an aging population.
Got it.
This is really intuitive. I like it. So what kind of insights can we gain from these different shapes?
Well, population pyramids reveal a lot about a country's demographic trends
Right?
and potential challenges or opportunity.
Interesting. I like what?
For instance, a country with a wide base may have a large potential workforce in the future,
Okay.
but it might also face challenges providing enough jobs and resources for this burgeoning population.
Right. So it's like a glimpse into a country's future based on its current population structure.
Exactly. To illustrate this point, let's look at three contrasting examples mentioned in our materials:
So
Kenya, India, and Japan.
I remember seeing those pyramids. Yeah.
Kenya's pyramid has a classic expanding shape,
Okay.
a very wide base
Yeah.
that rapidly narrows as you move towards the top.
So a lot of young people, but many don't reach older ages.
Precisely. Now, India's pyramid, while still having a relatively broad base,
Okay.
doesn't taper as drastically as Kenya's.
Gotcha. So India's somewhere in between.
It suggests a youthful but growing population
Yeah.
with declining death rates.
Probably due to things like improving healthcare.
Exactly. And finally, we have Japan's pyramid, which presents a stark contrast.
Okay. How so?
It has a narrow base,
Right.
reflecting a low birth rate,
Interesting.
and a bulging middle and upper section representing a large aging population.
So Japan is facing a different set of challenges, like dealing with a shrinking workforce.
Precisely.
Wow. These three examples really highlight how population pyramids can be powerful tools for understanding demographic trends
They are powerful.
and anticipating potential challenges and opportunities.
Absolutely.
This is all so fascinating. I'm starting to grasp how population patterns, influencing factors, and population composition are all intertwined.
They are all connected.
But before we delve deeper into the dynamics of population change, I have a question for you and for our listeners.
Okay, shoot.
Imagine a country with a very young population.
Okay.
What do you think might be the unique challenges and opportunities this country might face?
That's a great question.
It is, right.
And one that deserves careful consideration. A country with a very young population, huh? It's almost like a balancing act, you know?
Okay, in what way?
Well, on one hand, you have this surge of youthful energy,
Yeah.
a workforce that's ready to jump in and contribute.
It's like a nation brimming with potential, like all that energy waiting to be harnessed.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so fascinating, right? That potential can drive innovation, economic growth.
Right, because you have fresh perspectives, new ideas.
It's a vibrancy that's hard to replicate.
I can see that.
But there are significant challenges, too.
Like what?
Well, think about it. How do you provide quality education and skills training for this vast young population? That's one of the most pressing issues.
That makes sense, because without that, all that potential could just go to waste.
Exactly. It's like having a powerful engine but lacking the fuel to make it run.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You need that fuel. Imagine millions of young people entering the workforce without the skills to find decent jobs.
Right, it could actually hurt the economy.
It can strain the economy, lead to social instability.
And these days, it's not just about basic literacy and numeracy, right?
No, not at all. The world is changing so rapidly,
Yeah,
with technology evolving at an incredible pace.
exactly. The skills needed are constantly changing.
Precisely. We're talking about equipping young people with adaptable skills, critical thinking, problem-solving abilities.
Skills that can evolve with the times.
Exactly. It's about preparing them for a future where jobs might look completely different from what we see today.
So it's about more than just meeting present needs.
Yes.
It's about investing in the future.
Absolutely. And that requires a huge investment in
Yeah.
education, infrastructure,
I can see how that could be really daunting for some governments.
especially in countries with limited resources.
Yeah.
It's a massive undertaking, but the alternative.
What's the alternative?
Well, think about a generation of unfulfilled potential, unemployment, social unrest that's far more costly in the long run.
It makes you realize the responsibility that comes with having such a large youth population.
It does. And it's not just education.
What else?
We need to think about healthcare, too.
Oh, right, because a young population means...
More demand for healthcare services. You need robust maternal and child healthcare immunization programs.
Right, to make sure the generation is healthy.
Exactly. Investing in their health is investing in the health of the nation.
So it's another long-term investment.
It is. And then there's a challenge of job creation.
Oh, yeah, of course. You need jobs for all those young people entering the workforce.
A burgeoning youth population needs a vibrant and diverse economy that can absorb all those workers.
Otherwise, you end up with a situation where there aren't enough jobs, which leads to unemployment.
Exactly. And that can breed frustration, disillusionment.
So how do you address that?
Well, you need to foster entrepreneurship, encourage innovation, attract foreign investment.
Basically, create an environment where businesses can thrive and create jobs.
Precisely. That's key to generating employment opportunities for a young, growing workforce.
This is really highlighting the complexity of population dynamics for me.
It is complex.
It's not just about numbers. It's about understanding the needs, aspirations, and potential of different age groups.
And tailoring policies to address those needs.
Exactly. It's about creating a society that works for everyone.
That's the goal, isn't it? To create a society where everyone has the opportunity to contribute and thrive, regardless of age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there any examples of countries that have done this well, that have successfully navigated this demographic shift?
There are, actually. South Korea comes to mind.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, in the mid-20th century, they had a very similar situation.
Okay.
A large, young population,
Yeah.
limited resources.
And they turned things around.
They did. Through strategic investments in education, healthcare, technology,
Wow.
they transformed their economy and became a global powerhouse.
So they basically leveraged their young population to fuel their progress.
Exactly. But it wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't an overnight success.
What did it take?
It took long-term vision, consistent policies, and a real commitment to human capital development.
It sounds like having an understanding of population trends, like those shown in population pyramids, can be really valuable for making good policy decisions.
Absolutely. It's like having a roadmap for the future, highlighting potential challenges.
Right, so you can anticipate those challenges.
To make strategic decisions.
Okay, I think we're ready to delve deeper into the mechanics of population change now.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's unpack those factors we touched upon earlier: births, deaths, and migrations.
Excellent. Understanding these forces is crucial to grasping how populations ebb and flow.
So let's start with births.
A good place to begin.
After all, every human story starts with a birth.
Right.
Right.
It does. When we talk about births in the context of population studies,
Yeah.
we often use the term birth rate.
Okay.
This refers to the number of live birth per 1,000 people in a given population over a specific period, usually a year.
So it's a way of measuring how many babies are being born relative to the population size.
Precisely. And birth rates can vary widely between countries and regions.
I could imagine. Why is that?
Well, a lot of factors come into play.
Okay.
Socioeconomic conditions, for one.
Okay, how so?
In many developing countries where access to education and healthcare is limited, birth rates tend to be higher.
Right, if people don't have access to family planning,
Exactly.
or if having a large family is culturally expected.
Precisely. Cultural norms and societal values are crucial.
So it's not always a simple matter of choice.
It's not. In some cultures,
Yeah.
having a large family is seen as a sign of prosperity or a way to ensure support in old age.
I see.
And religious beliefs can also influence family size preferences.
So it goes deeper than just access to contraception.
It does. It's about deeply embedded values and beliefs.
And what about government policies? Can they play a role in influencing birth rates?
They can. Some countries have implemented policies to either encourage or discourage births.
Oh, wow. Like what?
China's one-child policy, for instance, although it's been relaxed now, is a well-known example of government intervention aimed at controlling population growth.
So it's a tool that governments can use, but it's clearly a complex issue.
It is complex.
It makes me think about our earlier discussion about the PKVY program.
Yes.
It seems like empowering women through education and economic opportunities could also have an impact on birth rates.
That's a great point. Studies have shown that as women gain more access to education and enter the workforce, they tend to have fewer children
Oh, interesting.
and delay childbirth.
It makes sense. Their priorities and aspirations might shift.
Precisely. They're more aware of family planning options,
Yeah.
they have different goals, and they're also facing the economic realities of raising a family in a modern society.
So investing in women's education and empowerment can actually have ripple effects on demographic trends.
It's all interconnected.
This is giving me a much deeper appreciation for the nuances of population change.
It's not just about the numbers themselves.
Right. It's about understanding the why behind those numbers.
Exactly. It's about the complex web of factors that influence those numbers.
Okay, we've explored births.
Yes.
Now let's turn our attention to the other side of the coin. Deaths.
Okay.
What are the key things we need to consider when looking at death rates?
Well, just as births add to a population,
Yeah.
deaths reduce it.
Makes sense.
And just like birth rates, death rates also vary significantly across the globe.
I imagine similar factors are at play here.
Absolutely. Healthcare access, socioeconomic conditions, lifestyle choices, all of these influence death rates.
So having a good healthcare system is crucial.
It is. Countries with well-developed healthcare systems, widespread access to medical services, and a focus on preventative care tend to have lower death rates.
That makes sense. If people have access to vaccinations, treatment for illnesses, they're more likely to live longer.
Exactly. But healthcare is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right, because we've been talking about all these interconnected factors,
Precisely. Socioeconomic factors are closely linked with health outcomes.
like how poverty and malnutrition can affect life expectancy.
Exactly. Poverty, malnutrition, lack of access to clean water and sanitation, these all contribute to higher death rates, particularly among vulnerable populations.
It highlights the fact that health disparities are often a reflection of deeper inequalities within a society.
It's not just about having hospitals and doctors, it's about addressing the root causes of these health inequities.
So improving healthcare access requires a multi-pronged approach,
Yes,
addressing social determinants of health as well.
absolutely. And we can't forget the role of individual choices.
Oh, right, like lifestyle choices.
Things like smoking, excessive alcohol consumption, lack of physical activity, unhealthy diets.
These can all contribute to poor health.
They can increase the risk of chronic diseases and ultimately lead to premature death.
So even with a good healthcare system, individual choices still matter.
They do. It's a complex interplay of individual behavior, social factors, and access to healthcare that shapes a nation's death rate.
This is painting a really complex picture of a population change for me.
It is complex.
It's not just about counting births and deaths. It's about understanding all these underlying factors and how they're all connected.
You've got it. It's about seeing the bigger picture, recognizing the intricate web of influences at play.
Okay, so we've covered births and deaths.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the third piece of the puzzle, migration.
Ah, yes, migration. the movement of people from one place to another.
It seems like that can really shake things up when it comes to population change.
It can. It's a powerful force shaping population patterns.
And there are so many different reasons why people migrate.
Oh, absolutely. Everything from economic opportunities to escaping conflict or persecution.
Right. Some people are seeking a better life, while others are fleeing dangerous situations.
Precisely. Some migrate voluntarily, others are forced to move.
And the impact on populations can be pretty significant, right?
It can be. You see shifts in population density, changes in the age and sex structure of a population.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about how many people are moving, but also who those people are.
Exactly. For instance, if a country receives a lot of young, skilled workers,
Okay.
that can be a huge boost to their economy.
Yeah.
But if a country experiences a mass exodus of its educated population, it can lead to a brain drain.
Right, where the country loses valuable skills and knowledge.
Precisely. It can hinder development.
So it's like a double-edged sword in some way.
It is, and that's why understanding the nuances of migration is so crucial for policymakers.
Right, because you need to manage those flows effectively.
Absolutely.
This is really highlighting how interconnected the world is.
It is.
People are constantly on the move, and those movements have ripple effects across societies.
We live in a globalized world where people, goods, and ideas are constantly flowing across borders.
This is making me rethink the whole concept of human resources.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about the sheer number of people in a country.
No, it's about so much more than that. It's about their skills, their education, their health, their motivations, their mobility, all of it.
It's about recognizing that people are complex and dynamic.
Exactly. And understanding those complexities is key to building a more sustainable and equitable world.
This has been a truly insightful deep dive into population change.
It has been fascinating.
We've explored births, deaths, and migration, and I think we've gained a much deeper understanding of the factors that influence these processes and their impact on societies around the world.
It's a complex and ever-changing landscape.
It is. Before we wrap up this part of our exploration, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
How do you think technological advancements, like artificial intelligence and automation, might impact future population trends and workforce dynamics?
That's a great question to ponder.
It is a big one, right? It's like looking into a crystal ball.
It is. It's a question we need to grapple with as we navigate the 21st century. It really is a question that makes you think AI and automation, they're already changing how we work.
Yeah, and it's happening so fast. Like it's something out of science fiction, but it's right here, right now.
Right. And you wonder, where does it all lead? How does it all end up? How will these advancements, how will they change things, like fundamentally?
Yeah, like it makes you think about the big picture,
Exactly.
the impact on society.
Yeah. And it is happening fast, that pace of technological change. It's only speeding up.
It feels that way.
As AI and automation become more sophisticated, they have the potential to really shake things up.
Disrupt things.
Disrupt, yes, but also elevate. It's like a two-sided coin.
A double-edged sword, right?
Exactly.
Like on one hand, technology can free us from those boring, repetitive tasks.
Right.
And it can create new opportunities we haven't even imagined yet. But on the other hand, it could also lead to job displacement and economic uncertainty.
It's a valid concern. That's
Yeah.
a tension we need to be really mindful of. We need to approach it thoughtfully.
So what can we do?
Well, one possibility, and this is what a lot of experts are saying, is that AI and automation will actually create a demand for new types of jobs.
Yeah, interesting. What kind of jobs?
Jobs that require those uniquely human skills. Things that machines just aren't good at.
So we're talking about creativity, critical thinking.
Yes. Those complex problem-solving skills. The things that set us apart from machines.
So it's not about being afraid of technology.
Yeah.
It's about adapting and focusing on those human capabilities that complement those advancements.
Exactly. Things like emotional intelligence, right?
Mhm.
Complex decision-making, adaptability. Those will be the skills that are in high demand.
So we need to invest in those human skills.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine a world where AI handles all the routine tasks.
Yes.
And it frees us up to focus on things like innovation, creative endeavors, building meaningful connections.
That's a future I think a lot of people would embrace.
It sounds pretty good to me. It suggests that technology could actually enhance our potential,
That's the goal. Not to replace us, but to augment us.
to make us better.
Exactly.
But to get there, we need to be proactive.
We do.
Right. It's not just going to happen on its own.
No, we need to invest in education and training programs that equip people with the skills they'll need in this new world.
It's like we need to become lifelong learners.
Yes. Constantly adapting, evolving, keeping pace with the changes.
And it's not just individuals who need to adapt, right?
Right. This is a collective effort.
Governments and businesses have a role to play too.
They do. We need policies that support workforce transitions.
Yeah, and programs that foster innovation.
Absolutely.
So it's a shared responsibility to make sure these technological advancements benefit society as a whole.
I completely agree.
And as we think about the future of work,
Yes.
it's important to remember that it's not just about economic productivity.
No.
It's also about people's well-being, their fulfillment.
It's about people.
Right, we need to create a future where technology serves humanity.
Why? Not the other way around?
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
We started by talking about people as a resource.
Yes.
We've looked at population patterns, the factors that drive change.
Births, deaths, migration, the whole picture.
And now we've ended up at this fascinating intersection of technology and the future of work.
It's all connected, isn't it? It's all part of the human story.
It really is. I think one of the key takeaways for our listeners today is that people are at the heart of it all.
They are.
It's our ingenuity, our adaptability, our interconnectedness. These are the things that drive progress and shape the world.
That's what makes us human.
And as we move forward, it's so important to remember the value of human connection,
Yes.
collaboration.
And compassion.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive for today.
It has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
It was my pleasure. Really enjoyed it. I hope everyone listening found it helpful.
And to our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity.
And maybe inspired you to learn even more about the amazing world of human resources.
It's a fascinating topic.
It is. And as we sign off, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Think about how you, as an individual, can contribute to the development of your own society.
What role can you play?
Draw inspiration from the things we've talked about today, the stories, the insights.
The world is full of challenges, but also opportunities.
It is.
It's up to each of us to play our part in creating a future where everyone has the chance to thrive.
We can all make a difference.
Absolutely. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.